welcome to another episode of the Atlantic CIL podcast. I'm the executive director of the Atlantic CIL, Donald Campbell. We're here with one of our favorite new people that came into our lives about maybe 2 years ago, Janna Roberts, who does a lot of work, has a lot of personal and professional experience working with people with different disabilities. And we're going to talk about that. Hi, Janna.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's everybody?
Whatever time of day or night, if it's 3 a.m. and you can't sleep and you want to listen to the nice tones of Donald and Janna help you go to sleep, that's what we're here for too. So Janna, let's talk about. I'm gonna just ask you. So, what do you do? Where do you work? Talk about that. Let's start there.
I actually work for ACFSO, Atlantic Cape Family Support Organization, where I support and advocate and educate for families that got children with a mental disability or autism. And pretty much we work in the field and we cater to the caregivers, making sure they have, that support in time of need, making sure there's resources that if they need.
That's great. So how did you get involved in this work? What drew you to it?
What drew me to it? A passion. I actually worked in the medical field for almost 30 years. I actually took care of a doctor's mother as well. But what drew me to this is after my son, who had a head trauma, walking down the street and somebody hit him from behind, he wound up with a mental disability. So as time went along, trying to navigate that because my son was going into the adulthood, which is different from the children's system of care. Right. So navigating that, and this place I asked about, and someone told me where to go, and I put in for it and got hired like a day later. And when I came in, it was like full force because I don't want nobody to go through what I'm going through when their kids age out as of 21. So I wanted to make sure I learned as much as I can and I can be hands-on with families and making sure they're educated, knowing they have a voice and a choice for their child's, help.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Janna. I think I was at a meeting the other day and one of the people were talking about, one of the other directors of the CIL were talking about how the key to any successful transition is the parents being educated and the caregivers being educated about their rights and the resources. Like that's what makes or breaks the success of any transition to adulthood. And yeah, I want you to talk about that, the importance of knowing the system and learning about it and kind of the challenges you face. Can you talk about that?
Yes, because the challenge that I faced, pretty much ACFSO, the Children's System of Care, which they call CSOC, is about 23 years in. When my son wound up having a disability, I pretty much didn't have nowhere to turn because that wasn't a thing at the time. I didn't know anything about mental illness, only that I know that I worked in a hospital and had to go into, the psychiatric unit to help with the insurance part. I didn't know anything about, the whole total overlook of diagnosis or who I can go to, who can I help, who can help me with this, the DDD applications, yes. Knew nothing. Well, when I took on this job, I took on a whole playground, I say. I didn't know anything about it, but I educate people. I know how to do a DD application. I know how to do a DD. And I also know how to file for guardianship without even going through the lawyers, which is costing abundance of money for families.
Yes, exactly.
So there are a lot of things that I've learned through my trial of all of this has been pretty successful, and like I said, I don't want no parents to be like me. So when I go in, I try to educate them from A to Z of everything, anything that I've been through, everything that I've learned, something that they're going to come across as the kid get to a certain age. So the best thing is educating the parent to the fullest, or the caregiver, whoever it is, to the fullest, and know that you do have rights. You know that there is all kinds of things out there that can help you get through this. Because I'm not going to say there's not days that I don't cry because I feel like I'm backed up in a corner. But I will say mental health and independent living had beautiful people in place. When I did get hooked to them, it felt like a door opened for me. I got placed with the right people who listens, who direct me, who gave me that comfort that I needed. Especially when you have a family that doesn't know about mental illness and you're going through this struggle by yourself.
Right. And there's a lot of stigma still involved with mental illness, and a lot of people don't even like to talk about it. And a lot of people, try to sweep it under the rug. And, it's just, there's a lot of just societal barriers to it as well. Did you encounter any of that? Like people who they just kind of dismiss it out of hand?
Oh yeah, a lot of people just give me a bunch of papers and say go for it. And with that, when you're going through a lot of stuff with your child, thank God I don't have any mental issues that it would be a struggle even but I'm trying to navigate it. And it was many a days it was doors shut. I'm asking questions. They just love to give paper and let you go about your business. If you're so stressed out and trying to keep yourself together and people's giving you paper, sign this, do this, fix this. When my son first had a head trauma, we tried to get Medicaid for him. The first thing a lady told him, he had to go through a program before even getting Medicaid or any monies a month. And I'm like, he had a head trauma. He doesn't remember. I'm trying to explain. She said, well, he won't be good for service. That was in a place in Hamilton. I went to the Atlantic City office and asked to speak to a high up person. And they was like, that's not true. You explained to him what happened. And I said, yes. They asked to speak to my son. He okayed for me to speak to him. And they looked into it. They got his records pulled. And they said, that's totally wrong. I was paying for my son's mental health medicine. That was costing me like almost $1,000 a month.
Wow.
That's one. At the time, I had a child going into college. So it was like a real struggle trying to balance. So between working a full-time job, picking up, doing odds and ends to make sure my son had until the Medicaid came through. So if you don't know your rights and if you think that what somebody's telling you is correct, dig deep, dig a little deeper. I mean, and sometimes, like I said, you keep trying to dig and still you come to a dead end. That's what was happening to me in the beginning. Then I just started saying, hey, reach out. I got a call here, there, and everywhere. And I wish I could be around the whole world because trust me, I would love to navigate what everybody else is going through that I'm going through.
Well, I just think that's I really want to highlight, because I think it was an important lesson in what you did. I think a lot of people, the first person you spoke to would have taken their opinion and been like, well, I guess that's it. I guess that's the truth. But just because somebody works for somewhere or is in a position of authority, it's always good to get a second or sometimes a third opinion, because unfortunately, the reality is sometimes people even who work in this field and know and work for these programs, they have a misunderstanding of the rules. So they give out misinformation, which is bad. And then with
and things do change.
Right, exactly. That's the other thing too. Things change.
One thing about the mental illness and trying to find out different things that's out there that can help your child, it's a hard thing because depends upon, like we said, whose hands you fall into that know enough, that knows that if you apply for this would happen. If you apply for this, it's too early. I applied for Social Security for my son because they told me, and he was only 2 months into being diagnosed. That wasn't long enough. It had to be like a year. He had to be diagnosed. He had to be on medication, following through the protocols. So of course we got denied and I couldn't understand, but now I have a clear vision of why. So now when people ask me different things, I can respond back and know what I'm saying is correct. Because one thing is giving incorrect information and then you follow through and then it falls through. So I always tell people, the internet has a lot, but sometimes is it pointing you in the right direction?
Right,
You
right,
know, our
right.
state laws may be one way, and some things you just can't get around. You know, of course, with
Right.
the children at the age of 14, they can say they don't want to take medicine, and that
Exactly.
start working up a big problem as they get older.
Exactly. That's the other thing too. You can't force anybody to do anything, especially once they turn an adult, unless you get guardianship, and that's a process as well. And I think what you're saying is so key about sometimes I say that there's enough information out there for people to know enough to be dangerous. Like some people get half the right information and they start giving like half the right information. Your right laws change. So maybe that person you talked to first, maybe they were right last year, but that year then it changed in a year and they didn't keep up to
Yeah,
date. So
yeah, the
you
things have changed and laws have changed. So it's like sometimes walking in eggshells. You don't know which piece is sturdy and which piece is getting ready to crack and change up. Because it can change in a blink of an eye. And of course, we're not getting all the memos on it.
yeah, they're not
Always, and I always tell people, try to stay connected with different things that's out there that deals with mental health, like
right.
independent living.
Yeah,
They have a
yeah,
lot of resources.
right.
And of course, I'm thankful that I am connected with them. So anytime I need to ask a question, if I don't know, I know they'll know. And if they don't know, they'll find it for me.
Right, right, right.
So
I think what you're saying is key too. You gotta kind of build a team. Like you gotta build your
yeah,
resources and get your
man, you
like
gotta
your
pull strings from all ends.
yes.
It's good to be kind and nice because you never know what
Yes.
what step you gonna have to step on to lead you to what you
Right.
need.
And you don't know where that person is going. That person you were nice to could end up being the next director of Medicaid. You have no idea what they're
Exactly.
gonna
Hey,
do.
look how I meant you, Donald. I meant you, shoot. No, that's been about 4 or 5 years, Donald. I came across you with the DDD
Yes.
thing, and we used to meet in person, but then when it got to be virtual, that's when I got to see you more. So you never know whose path you're gonna cross or
Right.
who's crossing the same path as you, because some people are not going to come out and say, hey, I have a mentally ill child, or I
Right,
have a
right,
disabled, or I have a child with autism or whatever.
right, right.
Like me, when people ask me, hey, how's your day? I said, my day is good. Thank God that I woke up. But I also, please pray for my son. And then I'll tell them in my journey what I went through. Even every family that I even talk to, that I let them know I walk this walk. I talk this talk. I live this
Right.
life. You're not by yourself. So don't think that I'm this person doing this job and don't know anything. No,
Right.
I'm going through the process too.
Right. I've been
Just
there.
as
I've done
well.
that.
And I don't mind shedding tears with them. Cause like I said, it's a hard journey, but it's also you're working on yourself and you always gotta keep your mental together. You got to have self-love, self-care. Sometimes you got to breathe deep. You may have that one friend that you can talk to, or if you don't have any friends that you can talk to, because some people don't want to hear it. The
Right.
first thing people will say is, hey, that child is grown.
Right. Yes.
Let him do what he want. He's grown. Forget about him. No,
Right.
that's my child. I birthed
Right.
that. First is
Right.
my only son and my oldest. So no.
Right. No, that's not how I agree. It's amazing the ignorant things people can say sometimes. And it's just, I think, comes from a place of really not getting it. You don't live that experience. So
Yep, but
you don't,
until that happens to them,
right.
then they'll see, but they'll be calling you asking for questions and answers. And when you shut the door on them, then they'll know what to feel.
Right,
But
right,
me, the
right, right.
person I am, I don't have room to shut a door. I
Right.
like to open the doors. And if you want to learn and you want to know my journey, I'm going to tell you.
I agree. So how is Michael doing now? How is he doing?
Michael
Uh
is doing okay. We have hiccups, but you know what? He just came home from Northbrook. That was a mental hospital. He came home and had a little struggles because Michael was a little homeless for a whole year, not by choice. He got approved a year ago for his place, Supposed to got the keys in 2 weeks last February. Didn't get his keys until this year, April, when he came home. When he came home, I didn't know how his living arrangements as far as bedding and this and that. And that's why I say it's good to be connected and somebody knows what you're going through, because there may be a pot there that they can give.
Right. Exactly.
And I thank God for Donald and his team, because when they showed up and came through and helped me, my son has a beautiful furnished place.
Yes, we're very happy.
And he smiles when he go in. I said, man, you got a real nice place. He's keeping it clean. We still battling with the everyday taking your medicine twice a day thing. Or I'm going to take this one pill, but I ain't taking that pill. You know, he likes to cook. We had somebody donate him some pots and pans. So that's kind of, he's getting on track.
Yeah, I think it's great. And the way you said it's such a good thing too. We got a little pot of money. We were able to help furnish Michael's apartment, which we were so happy about doing because we help people transition what we can. And I think what you said is so important, even if an organization's, because a lot of these organizations, sometimes you don't have the funding yet, but if they know your story and you have that relationship with them, they don't forget. They don't forget. So when that money does come around, you're on their mind. Where some people
and like I said, I worked with Dawn, and let me tell you, outstanding person. When I mean support, she heard my cries, she heard my story. She reached out to me every week. Hey, self-care, self-love. I said, I know, because I always tell my families that I work with self-care. But it's hard sometimes to even focus on that when you're focused on your loved ones and you don't want them to get in trouble and you don't want this and that. And see, with Michael going into his own place for the first time by himself, it was different for him. Hey, I got nice furniture. I love my bed. He keeps his place clean. Now, my next thing is trying to get him a radio or set him up with cable so he just won't be in a quiet zone. That's the only thing. I go past and make sure, he has his food, so he can cook himself. We dealt with when he was homeless, a lot of tickets out there. We had to go to court. I'm right there with him. The first thing the lady and the judge said, are you his caseworker? I said, no, I'm not his caseworker. I'm his mother, but I advocate hard for my children. I said, I wish I could just be his daggone care. I mean, like his caseworker and not his mother, because I would have been really into it.
I am. I'm his caseworker too, of his mom, of his lawyer, of whatever it needs to be in that situation.
So the one good thing with going to court now, he got this ultimatum, and I'm hoping he follows through with it. And that's either, hey, you're going to have tickets and this is going to stay on for loitering or smoking out in front of the bus station. Stupid tickets, but they're tickets and there's laws. So with that, he had to hook with JFS, and he has to have them in his life for at least a year, which is great, which I want, but he have to be willing.
Right. And that's a great point, Jenna. It's like, I think a lot of people, like you always talk about, the people who don't get it, like, well, just make Michael do this. Like, you can't make somebody do things.
Yeah.
They have to be
Michael's 36.
Right. They have to be a willing participant. And when you have a mental health disability, a lot of times that's hard because they're dealing with their mental health disabilities. So
they dealing with their mental health disabilities and they don't see that they're doing anything wrong. How many telephones we done went through? Cell phones. It may be in 2 months. It might have been 3 phones.
Right.
And I told him, I said, wait a minute, what is the tantrum for? You got a tantrum like a 4 or 5-year-old, and now you don't have a phone and you blaming everybody else why you don't have a phone. I said, now you have to look at yourself and saying, hey, you're not growing past this. And 2, there's a consequence. The consequence is now you can't call me.
Right.
Which may not be bad sometimes, but I like that if something is wrong or he needs to talk, that at least I'm there. Even though I may get cussed out, but I know that's not my son.
Right.
That's somebody else always telling them, who am I talking to today? Is that person that's just walking down the street that don't know me? I said, that's not my son. When you finish, come talk to me.
Right. When you see my son, let him
Yeah,
tell him to give me a call.
Because he's good for saying, I think you was cloned because you're not my mother. And why he says that, I think, is because now a little more sternness in me. Standing my grounds. That's what I say. I'm standing my grounds as that parent because I can't let you tear me down. And then I won't be no good for you. I said, if you keep trying to tear me down, I'm not going to be here for you. And then who's going to help you?
Right. It's the importance of, you want to help somebody, but also keeping your boundaries and keeping yourself.
Right. I said, I'm not going to be sick. I can't be in a hospital. I can't be in the grave because if I'm not here, I can't help you.
Right.
And what are you going to do?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. We'll end a little bit about talking about getting housing, because that's a journey too that people don't really understand. I think people think, you don't know how many times I've heard, oh, just sign them up for affordable housing. Like, like you go out into the backyard and press the
And
affordable
pull out a place and throw it in your lawn. Trying to find housing for anybody now is very hard, but even for the ones that has disabilities, it's very hard. You even like my son, he wouldn't be good for a group home.
Right.
He's very high function. If you didn't know him, you would think he's fine until you get to know him, and then you'll see some things come out that you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, something's wrong. But trying to find housing for a normal person, let alone somebody with a mental illness, is hard. If you had any kind of record on your, and they do a background check, that'll come up and may flag you.
Yes.
My son, when he first had the head trauma, walking down the streets of Atlantic City, somebody hit him from behind. Who knew he was going to have a mental illness after that? So after that, if somebody walked up to him, he would have said, hi, whatever, spoke. Hey, hold this for me. And he did. My son wound up doing 4 years.
Right.
For 4 years, that charge wasn't great. So with the charge, certain housing you can't move in, and they give you a stipulation. You have to wait 5 years or 10. We had a 10-year we had to wait. So within that 10 years was good. But that last year, when they said, hey, you got your apartment, we'll give you your keys in 2 weeks. That was 2022. We just got the key 2023.
Right.
So in his mind, mentally, they took all my information. There's apartment, but they got somebody else living in the apartment in my name, because that's how paranoia schizoaffective may go.
Yes.
So we went through that for a long time. He didn't care what he looked like. He didn't care where he slept. I've seen many pictures of my son laying on the ground in Atlantic City. I mean, hot days with a winter coat on, because sometimes it gets cool at night. So where can you put your coat? But that was how his life was going. He didn't want to take medication. If he got in my car, he wasn't trying to get out of my car. I mean, it was a lot of battles of going back and forth. Now going forward, like I say, he's doing good. I'm hoping and praying that he does take the injections for his mental health medicine, which you would get once a month. Then he knows to stand into his system, and we won't run into these hiccups of, I'll take the dissolvable medicine, but I ain't taking the pill.
Right.
Or you hear, I took it this morning and yesterday. But the thing is, when you go to give him his new prescription, you wonder why one medicine's all going and the other one is still a full bottle.
Right. Exactly. It's so finding that right combination, and also what works for you, because remembering to take pills, especially when you have a mental health disability, is hard, because you can wake up
and he always say he's going to get off the mental health roster. I'm not mentally ill. I don't need the medicine. I'm going to get off this roster. My son would have been a engineer. He was definitely good in graphics, but of course, this is how it is. And he always say, my sisters all got good degrees, but what about me? I'm like, you got your own degree in your own way. I said, 'cause
Yes.
one day you're going to be an instrument for somebody. And that's what he wants to do.
Right.
He wants to be able to advocate and tell these young kids, certain things of life.
Right.
That this is
And
not,
as you know, people do live every day productive lives with mental health disabilities. And the key is finding that, taking your medication and staying on top of it. It's not like his life is over. He could definitely
yeah, he
do a
just
lot of good.
needs, and I think people with mental illness that don't have nothing to do every day but wake up, they need something as a purpose.
Right.
I
Right.
don't get up just to say, hey, I'm up and that's it. Four
Right.
walls, go outside. So they need a purpose to make them feel like somebody, like they a purpose in this world for something, you
Right. Right.
know. But when they have that everyday stagnant, and like I said, he's pretty high function. So I told him one day, hopefully that would be a thing that you, even if it's a day or two, something to give you something to do instead
Yes.
of driving everybody else insane because you ain't getting your way. But that's how it is. The one thing I will say is having somebody with mental illness in your life is called grin, bear, and have patience. And when I mean patience, you have to really find a lot of patience. You always got to focus on yourself, self-care, self-love. Keep your mental together. I deal with families that have mental illness, that have kids. So how are you trying to educate them? At the same time, I'm trying to educate them about their mental health of staying on track so that they can be good for their kids. That gets complicated because sometimes when I deal with families like that, I often reflect back to my son. So this job I do, it's therapeutic for me.
Right. So what would be your self-care advice?
My
How
self-care advice, oh boy. Okay, what I do for self-care, I drive. I put on the music a little. When I park, I sit back and relax. There's a certain part in my area where I live. I'll say West Atlantic City. I'll say on my travels.
right.
It's against the water and they got like a little thing look like a boardwalk. I always go over there and sit and just look at the waves. And I just feel like so refreshed.
That's a
And what
great
I
thing.
do say is, you know what? Thank God I made it to another day. And then I look at the ocean and saying the world is so spacious. For me to be worrying about and driving myself insane, my
Right.
own self, because where am I going to put myself? Either the grave or in a mental hospital.
Right.
I'm not going to be good for nobody. So my self-care, I sit back. Soda ain't something I should have, but I don't drink. So I'll have a soda. I'll sit there on the little steps and just enjoy the breeze. Take
Right.
care of yourself. Little things you like, even if you don't have a lot of money in the pot to do it, just do something. If it's
Right.
a scoop of
I think
ice cream.
yes, I think that key of how your self-care was, you found your own like space. You
Yeah,
found your own area where
I
you can
found
get
my
away
own
from
area
everything.
and everybody's space may be different. Somebody may like getting their fingernails done. Somebody may just like playing cards. Whatever it is, you find time and don't eliminate your friends that you have and just shut down completely.
Right.
You know who your A1 friends are.
Yes.
You know who's your ride or die crew. Then you have the crew that, they just freaking nosy.
Right. Yes.
They not
Yes.
there for you. They just to be in your business. So those you give them the BS you want to tell them,
Yes.
and the other ones who your strong troopers. But if you don't
That's
have
it.
that,
You cry to the A1 friends and
yeah,
the
your
B
A1
rosters are
friends
just
is gonna
gone.
be there and they gonna say, come on, get it together. You can do it, you can do it. And I have quite a few that's been in my corner, old and young, that be like, Mom, come on. My girl to say, one of my close friends through high school, she'll call and check on me. Somebody else that I really don't know, they'll call and check on me because that's what you have to find a connection. You got to find a group. You got to find a place like Atlantic Independent Living who's there for you, who connects you to people, because
Right.
you need that.
Right. You need your resources. You need your crew. You need
That's
your
right. You
crew.
need a crew. You got to educate yourself every day. And I always tell people that's the key to the whole thing. Educating yourself, because mental health is tricky. It's hard to connect all the dots together. It's a big puzzle. And my puzzle, I'm getting more pieces to it as I go. And I would love to share with anybody who needs those little pieces of puzzle. And like I said, you always got to keep smiling. Stuff gets bad. It's horrible, but you still got to keep going.
Right. And if you're lucky enough to have tomorrow, the day can turn around. So
Every
no,
day's different. Every
right.
day's different. I could talk to my son for an hour ago and he could be great. I can go see him and his whole attitude may be different.
Right.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
well, who was that now? And that's because it's either one or two things. He don't have something he wants. And I tell him in life, it ain't you, you don't get everything you want.
Right.
That's not how life is.
Nope, it doesn't roll like that. Nobody, my dad used to say when I was younger, whoever said life is fair.
Rockefeller was not a part of my family. Was not rich. We probably never going to be rich. And who cares? Because people who's rich have more problems than people that's poor. Because they have to worry about the IRS. They have to worry about claiming. At least you have a peace of mind. Ain't nobody trying to kill you to steal your money.
Yes. It's all about perspective. It's all about
perspective. How about that?
Well, I think we should close on. If you want to tell a little bit more of your organization, how do people find you? Is there any costs associated? How does it work?
No, ACFSO is connected with CSOC. Some people have to go through, their child may be in crisis.
Okay.
They may be in crisis and they may have to reach out to Perform Care. And that number would be 877-652-7624. That's, of course, in New Jersey. What they do is hook you to a therapist and stuff. And, they'll send mobile come out and assess and see what's going on and seeing if the kid needs a therapist, a BA. If they feel as though that services was good and after 6 weeks, if not, then they'll connect you to CMO. CMO is we're brother and sisters. CMO deals with the care for the children. They put in the BAs, the therapists, the FSO, family support person.
Right.
And we deal with the wraparound. What it is, they put CMO in, CMO builds a team with the BA therapist, then they built on FSO. So we actually wrap around services around the families. That's what I do. And I advocate for families.
Right. And just so everybody knows, the acronyms you use, what does BA stand for?
Behavioral analyst.
And what were the other ones? FSO. What is FSO?
FSO, Family Support Organization.
Okay. And you said another one that begins with C.
CMO, that's the case manager.
Right. That's the person like in Perform Care who would connect.
Yes, Perform Care would add on to them. Yep. And
Perform Care is care for people. Is it 18 and below, right? Is that how it works? No, it's actually below.
Shoot, I had a kid as early as 3 years old up to 21. After 21, that's when they go into the adult world.
Right. And Perform Care, are they like DDD for?
Well, Perform Care, if you can go, you can actually call them to ask them how to apply for DD or DDD.
Right.
They can tell you where to go and they can send you a link so you can do the application online.
Right. And they help you get connected to resources. And I think I'll just close with this. I think the key to really Janna's journey and her success is you have to show the initiative. You have to find these, like nobody knocked on Janna's door and was like, "Hey, we got all your resources right here." Like you have to be your advocate, and
you have to be an advocate. And when you go into different places, I always was a book searcher. Oh, what's this book for? I came across a book, New Jersey Resources.
Yeah,
that was like the Bible. That was the Bible to all things for me. I got connected to different numbers for the state. I got connected to this person, that person, and they have a lot of information that I pass along to families.
Right. There's the New Jersey Resource Guide, which the Division of Disability Services does, and it is really really good. And we have copies of it at the CIL. It is a great guide, and it, and you have to, like, because again, they don't call you. It's not like somebody call, hey,
Nope.
Dan, I heard Michael's going through some stuff. I heard that's not how it happens.
No, that's not how it happened. You get discharged from the hospital with a mental illness. Here's a piece of paper, here's that, and see you later. My son, before I go, I know when my first time I went through this part of the journey when my son got admitted, he went from PIP in the city of Atlantic City to mainland into the mental health spot. From there, he's non-compliant. He went to Northbrook, that's in Blackwood. From there, he still wasn't trying to do after 30 days. He went to Ancor for 14 days. And from there, they finally got him to say, hey, let's take this medicine. Let me check your blood work, because he didn't want to get blood work done. But when he got discharged from there, that's when I knew it's time for me to put my real big girl pants on. They discharged him with a paper with no information on it. Just 2 names, and told me, when you call here, ask for these people. Well, when I called Atlantic Care and I called to JFS, neither one of these people worked at neither one of these places, and they had no clue what I was talking about for my son. So you yourself have to be real in tune and advocate, because that would have been a loose end that I could have said, okay, well, I guess
that's it.
No, I had to dig deep, and I had to call an advocate and call back up to Ancor and say, hey, y'all discharged him with nothing.
Right. And
what is going on? And they never called me back. But guess what? Let me tell you the good thing about it. It's good to know somebody. It was a CEO, president, something meeting they was had. And I got invited to it. And they asked parents that had, family members that came through. And Lord behold, why they invite me?
Well, because you have a lot.
When I finished with that, they all had their mouth open, because I showed them the paper that was given to me and my son at the time of discharge that had nothing on it.
Right.
And so you yourself have to be in tune to everything with this, because it's a walk, it's a journey. I'm not going to say it's easy, but you take deep breaths and you'll pull yourself through. Go ahead and let tears out. It's okay.
Right. And there are great resources, Jewish Family Services, JFS. You did get connected to eventually. And another quick lesson before we go is, I think it was really good that you kept that documentation. A lot of people don't keep their documentation, but having that and
I got a whole stack of documentation since day one, and I always tell people, go get one of them big storage bins that you store your clothes or whatever in. I used to get everything that came through the mail pertaining to Social Security, pertaining to the hospital records, pertaining to this. I always ask, as I put them in this container, I turn them upside down. So I know in the beginning part is at the bottom, all the way up. And I still do that to this day. So there's nothing that's going to get past me. He's not going to keep up with it.
No. And that a lot of these agencies and a lot of these programs, they require a lot of documentation. And being able to say,
too much documentation.
Exactly. There's a lot of barriers. So we're always trying to limit that. But it's, like you said, the world's not fair. So you got to be ready with your.
The world's definitely not fair. And some people just don't care because they never walked in your shoes.
Right. Exactly.
Some people got gravel in their shoes. People got sand. Some people may got wet shoes.
Some people don't even get shoes. So,
How about it?
So that's great, Jen. I'm so glad we got to talk to you. I'm so glad Dawn, our independent living specialist, connected us. She's awesome.
She's very awesome. If everybody get a Dawn, you good. Mental health associate, Atlantic dependent living. Let me tell you, you got to get connected. And I got connected. It's funny how I got connected to one to the other. Sometimes I wonder, I said, God works in mysterious ways.
Right.
My
Right.
old director, Andrea Burley, who used to work here, he was the one who gave me the number to Mental Health Associates. I got hooked with a person there named Megan, and Megan hooked me with Donald, but then I wound up getting hooked with Dawn. So it's a circle of I got a family now.
Yes, our friends at the Mental Health Association in New Jersey, they're awesome. Megan is awesome.
Phenomenal.
She
Yeah, and that's how I got hooked to you, and then I got hooked to Dawn. But like I was saying, I got a whole new circle of families. People
right.
understand what I'm going through. They'll listen to me, even though I may go into the same rant. They know the struggle and the hurt.
They know the struggle is real, and yeah, special shout out to all those people, all those great organizations. I know Megan's out there doing awesome things. She left the Mental Health Association. She's doing awesome things now for another job. But Mental Health Association, they're still doing great things, and there's just great. And we're going to include a lot of the resources in the description of the podcast. So, like Jenna said, go connect to your resources and gotta be your own advocate. Thank you so much, Dana, for joining us.
Anytime, and everybody have a great day. Self-care, self-love, keep your mental together.
Right.
Life is short.
Right. And don't stop. Keep fighting. That's what I always say.
One love.
Yes, thank you. Bye. Bye,
Alrighty.
everybody.